What if I told you that the poorest person on earth is not the one sleeping under bridges, but the one who believes their circumstances define their destiny? The mind creates what it believes. Yet most people walk through life carrying invisible chains forged not by their bank account but by the thoughts they think when no one is watching. These chains are heavier than any physical burden. They bind tighter than any rope. They imprison more completely than any jail cell. You see poverty before you see possibility. You feel lack before you feel abundance. You speak limitation before you speak creation. This is not your fault. This is your conditioning. From the moment you drew your first breath, whispers filled your ears. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy. You have to work hard for every penny. There's never enough. These whispers became your inner voice. This voice became your reality. This reality became your prison. But prisons built by the mind can be destroyed by the mind. Most people chase money the way a dog chases its own tail. Round and round they go, exhausting themselves, never catching what they seek. They work harder, not smarter. They compete instead of create. They react instead of respond. They operate from fear disguised as ambition. The warrior knows better. The warrior understands that wealth begins where thoughts begin. In the space between your ears lies either your greatest asset or your most dangerous enemy. Most people never realize they are at war with themselves. They fight external battles while losing internal ones. They seek to change their bank balance while keeping their mind balance unchanged. This is backwards thinking. This is why they remain poor. Can you feel the weight of these invisible chains right now? Can you sense how your own thoughts about money create tension in your chest, tightness in your shoulders, worry in your stomach? Your body is telling you the truth. Your conditioning is lying to you. The conditioned mind sees scarcity everywhere. It calculates limitations. It counts what is missing. It focuses on problems, not solutions. It whispers, "You cannot afford this." It shouts, "You are not worthy of that." It creates stories that keep you small, safe, and struggling. But the awakened mind sees differently. The awakened mind recognizes abundance as the natural state of existence. Look around you. The universe creates billions of stars without effort. Trees produce fruit without stress. Rivers flow without forcing. Nature operates from overflow, not scarcity. Yet somehow you have been taught to believe that lack is natural and abundance is rare. This is the great deception. Money is energy. Energy flows where attention goes. Most people give their attention to what they lack. So lack continues to grow. They focus on bills, debts, and expenses. They count their limitations more carefully than they count their possibilities. They speak poverty more fluently than they speak prosperity. The mouth speaks what the heart believes. The heart believes what the mind accepts. The mind accepts what it repeatedly experiences. Most people experience financial stress on repeat, like a broken record playing the same sad song over and over again. But you can change the music. Think of a river blocked by fallen trees and debris. The water wants to flow, but obstacles prevent its natural movement. Remove the obstacles and the river flows freely again. Your mind is like this river. Money wants to flow to you, but mental obstacles block its path. These obstacles have names: fear, doubt, unworthiness, limitation, comparison, judgment. They pile up in your consciousness like fallen trees across a riverbed. You have been collecting these obstacles your entire life, never knowing they were blocking your flow. The warrior removes obstacles instead of fighting the river. Most people were raised by parents who were raised by parents who lived through economic hardship. Depression-era thinking gets passed down like genetic code. Scarcity mindset becomes family tradition. Financial fear becomes inherited wisdom. Children learn to be afraid of money before they learn to use money. This cycle continues until someone breaks it. Your grandmother's financial fears live in your nervous system. Your father's money worries echo in your internal dialogue. Your mother's economic anxiety shapes your spending habits. You carry the financial wounds of generations and you do not even know it. But awareness breaks generational patterns. The unconscious mind operates from programming installed before you were 7 years old. A child's mind accepts everything as truth. We cannot afford that. Money is hard to come by. Rich people are different from us. These statements were not questioned. They were absorbed like water into dry soil. Now, as an adult, you wonder why financial success feels impossible. You wonder why money seems to slip through your fingers like sand. You wonder why others prosper while you struggle. The answer lives in your subconscious programming. Most people try to change their financial situation without changing their financial psychology. They apply new strategies to old thinking patterns. They use modern techniques with ancient fears. They build new businesses on shaky mental foundations. This is like planting seeds in poisoned soil and expecting healthy growth. The warrior knows that inner work precedes outer success. The warrior understands that consciousness creates circumstances, not the other way around. The warrior recognizes that transformation begins in the invisible realm of thoughts, beliefs, and internal patterns. You have been hypnotized to believe in your limitations. Every day you reinforce this hypnosis through repetitive thinking. You wake up and immediately begin the same mental routines that created yesterday's reality. You think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, make the same choices, and then wonder why your life remains unchanged. Insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly while expecting different results. Most people live in financial insanity without recognizing it. The conditioned mind loves certainty, even when that certainty is limitation. It prefers familiar suffering over unfamiliar success. It chooses known problems over unknown possibilities. This is why lottery winners often lose their fortunes within years. External changes without internal changes never last. But the mind that created your financial problems cannot solve your financial problems. You need a different level of consciousness. You need to think from abundance, not about abundance. You need to feel wealthy before you become wealthy. This sounds impossible to the conditioned mind. This sounds natural to the awakened mind. The awakened mind operates from a different frequency. It sees opportunities where others see obstacles. It finds solutions where others find problems. It creates value where others see lack. It attracts resources instead of chasing them. Most people relate to money like beggars relate to bread. They feel grateful when they have it, and desperate when they do not. They hoard it out of fear and spend it out of emotion. They worship it and resent it simultaneously. This confused relationship creates confused results. The warrior has a clear relationship with money. Money is a tool, not a master. Money is energy, not identity. Money is a means, not an end. Money serves the warrior. The warrior does not serve money. Can you feel the difference in your body when you think about money as your servant versus money as your master? Your nervous system knows the truth even when your mind believes lies. The scarcity-programmed mind operates from 3 core beliefs. First, there is not enough. Second, you are not enough. Third, you do not deserve enough. These beliefs create self-fulfilling prophecies. What you believe, you achieve. What you expect, you experience. What you focus on, you find. But beliefs are just thoughts you have thought repeatedly. Thoughts can be changed. Changed thoughts change experiences. Changed experiences change lives. The abundance-programmed mind operates from different core beliefs. First, there is more than enough for everyone. Second, you are inherently worthy of prosperity. Third, your success contributes to everyone's success. These beliefs also create self-fulfilling prophecies, but positive ones. Most people argue for their limitations more passionately than they argue for their possibilities. They defend their financial struggles like loyal soldiers defending their homeland. They collect evidence to prove why they cannot succeed instead of collecting evidence to prove why they can. This is victim consciousness masquerading as realism. The victim says, "I cannot afford it." The warrior asks, "How can I afford it?" The victim says, "I do not have time." The warrior asks, "How can I create time?" The victim makes statements. The warrior asks questions. Questions open possibilities. Statements close them. Your current financial situation is not your permanent financial situation unless you believe it is. Your past does not determine your future unless you let it. Your circumstances do not define your potential unless you accept that they do. But most people mistake their current experience for their permanent identity. They say, "I am poor," instead of "I am currently experiencing financial challenge." They identify with their temporary condition instead of their eternal potential. Language shapes reality. Reality shapes experience. Experience shapes identity. Identity shapes destiny. Most people speak themselves into poverty through unconscious word choices. The warrior speaks consciously. The warrior chooses words that create, not words that destroy. The warrior understands that the tongue has the power of life and death, financially speaking. Notice how you talk about money when you think no one is listening. Notice the stories you tell yourself about why you cannot have what you want. Notice the excuses you create and the limitations you defend. This internal dialogue is creating your external reality, but you can change the conversation. The mind is like a garden. You can plant seeds of abundance or seeds of scarcity. You can water thoughts of possibility or thoughts of limitation. You can nurture beliefs that serve you or beliefs that sabotage you. The choice is always yours, but most people make this choice unconsciously. Conscious choice requires conscious awareness. Conscious awareness requires conscious practice. Conscious practice requires conscious commitment. Most people want financial transformation without internal transformation. This never works. The caterpillar must dissolve completely before becoming a butterfly. There is no halfway transformation. There is no partial metamorphosis. Old thinking patterns must die for new thinking patterns to be born. This death is not punishment. This death is liberation. The old you that struggles with money is not your true self. It is your programmed self, your conditioned self, your hypnotized self. Your true self is abundant by nature, creative by design, and prosperous by birthright. But your true self has been buried under layers of false beliefs, inherited fears, and cultural conditioning. These layers feel real because you have lived with them so long. They feel permanent because they have been with you so long. They feel true because they have guided you so long. Truth is not determined by duration. Truth is determined by results. Your financial beliefs have been with you for years, but what results have they created? Your money stories feel familiar, but where have they led you? Your economic assumptions seem logical, but what evidence supports them? The warrior questions everything, especially beliefs that create suffering. Most people would rather be right about their limitations than be wrong about their possibilities. They prefer familiar problems over unfamiliar solutions. They choose predictable struggle over unpredictable success. But the uncomfortable truth is this: your financial limitations exist primarily in your mind. The external world simply reflects what the internal world believes. Change your internal world, and your external world must change as well. This is not positive thinking. This is not wishful thinking. This is how consciousness works. Consciousness creates reality, not the other way around. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are a creator of circumstances. But most of the creating happens unconsciously. The warrior learns to create consciously. The time has come to break free from the invisible prison of conditioned thinking. The time has come to question beliefs that no longer serve you. The time has come to remember who you were before the world told you who you should be. You were born abundant. You were born creative. You were born with unlimited potential. These qualities did not disappear. They were simply covered by layers of programming, conditioning, and false education. But what was covered can be uncovered. What was forgotten can be remembered. What was lost can be found. The journey from financial struggle to financial freedom is not a journey of distance. It is a journey of awareness. It is not about changing your location. It is about changing your consciousness. It is not about finding new information. It is about applying ancient wisdom in modern ways. This wisdom has been hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to remember what you already know deep in your bones. The poorest person is not the one without money, but the one without awareness of their own creative power. You have this power. You have always had this power. Now you must learn to use this power consciously, deliberately, and wisely. Now that you see the prison walls, how do you walk through them? Now that you recognize the chains, how do you break them? Now that you understand the conditioning, how do you reprogram your mind for abundance? The ancient masters knew 3 pillars upon which all wealth consciousness rests. These are not techniques you learn, these are qualities you remember, these are not skills you acquire, these are powers you awaken. Master these 3 pillars and money becomes your servant instead of your master. The first pillar stands in stillness, the second pillar sees through observation, the third pillar acts through response, not reaction. Together they form the foundation of true wealth consciousness. Together they transform scarcity into abundance. Together they turn financial struggle into financial flow. Can you feel something shifting inside you already? Can you sense that what you are about to learn has been waiting for you your entire life? The first pillar is stillness, not the stillness of inaction, but the stillness of absolute clarity. Most people live in financial chaos because they live in mental chaos. Their minds race with worry, anxiety, and endless mental chatter about money. This internal noise creates external confusion. This mental turbulence creates financial turbulence. But in stillness clarity emerges. In clarity wisdom emerges. In wisdom right action emerges. The mountain does not worry about the storms that rage around it. The mountain remains unmoved, unshaken, absolutely still at its core. This stillness is not weakness. This stillness is supreme strength. When was the last time you sat in complete silence and simply observed your thoughts about money? When was the last time you allowed your mind to become perfectly still like a calm lake reflecting the sky? Most people fear this stillness because in stillness truth emerges. In truth conditioning is exposed. In exposure change becomes possible. The wealthy mind operates from stillness, not chaos. The wealthy mind makes decisions from peace, not panic. The wealthy mind sees opportunities because it is not blinded by emotional noise. Stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is fullness. Stillness is where your true power lives. But how do you find stillness in a world designed to create chaos? How do you access inner peace when external pressures demand constant reaction? The answer lies in your breath. The breath is the bridge between your conscious and unconscious mind. The breath is the gateway to stillness. The breath is your most powerful financial tool, and you have been carrying it with you every moment of your life. Right now, take one conscious breath. Feel the air entering your nostrils. Feel your chest rising and falling. Feel the natural pause between inhalation and exhalation. In this pause lives infinite possibility. In this pause your conditioning stops running the show. In this pause you remember who you really are. The conditioned mind breathes unconsciously, lives unconsciously, and creates unconsciously. The awakened mind breathes consciously, lives consciously, and creates consciously. Every breath is a choice. Every breath is a new beginning. Every breath is an opportunity to step out of financial programming and into financial freedom. Most people make financial decisions while holding their breath, literally and figuratively. They hold tension in their bodies, restriction in their breathing, and fear in their hearts. These decisions come from survival mode, not abundance mode. These decisions perpetuate struggle, not prosperity. But when you make financial decisions from stillness, everything changes. When you breathe before you buy, pause before you panic, and center before you choose, your decisions align with abundance instead of scarcity. Your choices serve your highest good instead of your deepest fears. The warrior knows that every moment of stillness is an investment in future abundance. Every conscious breath is a deposit in the bank of inner wealth. Every pause is a pause from unconscious patterns that create financial struggle. Think of the ocean's surface during a storm. Waves crash chaotically, water churns violently. Everything appears out of control, but 30 feet below the surface perfect stillness exists. The storm rages above, but peace remains below. Most people live on the surface of their consciousness, tossed around by every financial storm. The warrior learns to live from the depths, where stillness provides unshakable foundation. This is the first pillar of wealth consciousness. Not mental stillness that requires perfect conditions, but inner stillness that exists regardless of external circumstances. Not the stillness of meditation retreats, but the stillness you can access in traffic jams, board meetings, and bill-paying sessions. The second pillar is observation, the power to see what others miss, the ability to notice patterns that create opportunities, the skill of watching without judging, witnessing without reacting, perceiving without projecting. Most people look but do not see. They observe their external world through the filters of their internal programming. They see lack because they expect lack. They notice problems because they focus on problems. They perceive limitations because they believe in limitations. But the awakened mind observes without filters. The awakened mind sees opportunities where others see obstacles. The awakened mind notices abundance where others notice scarcity. This is not positive thinking. This is clear seeing. This is conscious observation. Right now, look around you. What do you see? Most people see objects, furniture, walls, and familiar surroundings. The warrior sees resources, possibilities, solutions, and hidden potential. The difference is not in what exists, but in what is perceived. The difference is not in external reality, but in internal awareness. The poor person looks at problems and sees more problems. The rich person looks at problems and sees opportunities for solutions. The poor person observes lack and feels discouraged. The rich person observes lack and feels motivated to create abundance. Same external reality, completely different internal experience. This shift in perception is not automatic. This shift requires practice. This shift demands conscious attention to how you observe your world. Most people observe unconsciously, automatically, habitually. They see what they have always seen, because they look the way they have always looked. But you can train your observation like you train a muscle. You can develop your perception like you develop a skill. You can strengthen your awareness like you strengthen your body. The wealthy mind is not born wealthy. The wealthy mind is trained to observe wealth where others observe poverty. Consider the eagle soaring high above the landscape. From ground level you might see only trees, rocks and obstacles. But from the eagle's perspective, patterns emerge. Rivers connect, valleys lead somewhere. Mountains create weather patterns. The eagle sees the bigger picture because the eagle observes from a higher vantage point. Financial observation requires the same elevated perspective. Most people observe their money from ground level, focused on immediate problems and daily struggles. The warrior learns to observe from the eagle's perspective, seeing patterns, connections and possibilities that ground-level observation misses. When you observe your financial situation, what do you notice first? The bills that need paying, the money you do not have, the expenses that keep rising. This is ground-level observation. This is scarcity-focused perception. This is poverty consciousness, disguised as realistic assessment. But elevated observation sees differently. Elevated observation notices assets you already possess. Elevated observation recognizes skills you can monetize. Elevated observation perceives relationships that could become partnerships. Elevated observation finds value in places you never thought to look. The same financial situation looks completely different from elevated observation versus ground-level observation. The facts might be identical, but the possibilities are infinite versus limited. The circumstances might be unchanged, but the potential is boundless versus restricted. Most people observe their financial situation like reading yesterday's newspaper. They focus on what already happened instead of what could happen next. They study their past mistakes more carefully than they study future opportunities. They become experts in their limitations instead of students of their possibilities. The warrior observes like reading tomorrow's newspaper. The warrior focuses on emerging trends, developing patterns and approaching opportunities. The warrior studies the market more carefully than the deficit. The warrior becomes an expert in possibility instead of an expert in limitation. This observational shift requires conscious practice. Every day, multiple times per day, ask yourself, what am I observing right now? Are you observing lack or abundance? Problems or solutions? Limitations or possibilities? Obstacles or opportunities? Your observation creates your experience. Your experience creates your reality. Your reality creates your financial results. But observation without action remains merely intellectual understanding. This brings us to the third pillar, response versus reaction. The space between what happens to you and how you respond is where your power lives. Most people have no space. Most people react automatically, immediately, emotionally to financial challenges. Reaction comes from conditioning. Response comes from consciousness. Reaction perpetuates old patterns. Response creates new possibilities. Reaction serves your programming. Response serves your highest good. When unexpected expenses arise, do you react or respond? When opportunities appear, do you react or respond? When money flows in, do you react or respond? When money flows out, do you react or respond? The quality of your financial life depends entirely on your answer to these questions. The reactive mind operates from fight, flight, or freeze. Financial challenge triggers survival mode. Survival mode activates primitive brain functions. Primitive brain functions create primitive solutions. Primitive solutions perpetuate financial primitive results. But the responsive mind operates from wisdom, creativity, and strategic thinking. Financial challenge triggers growth mode. Growth mode activates higher brain functions. Higher brain functions create innovative solutions. Innovative solutions create extraordinary results. Think of the oak tree in a powerful storm. The reactive tree would fight the wind, resist the pressure, and likely break under the force. But the oak tree responds. The oak tree bends without breaking. The oak tree flows with the wind instead of fighting it. The oak tree survives storms that destroy rigid trees. Financial storms are inevitable. Market fluctuations happen. Economic uncertainty exists. Unexpected expenses arise. Job situations change. The question is not whether financial storms will come. The question is how you will respond when they arrive. Most people react to financial storms with panic, fear, and desperation. They make decisions from survival mode. They choose options that provide immediate relief instead of long-term solutions. They trade future prosperity for present comfort. They react their way deeper into financial struggle. But the warrior responds to financial storms with calm assessment, creative thinking, and strategic action. The warrior asks, what can this situation teach me? The warrior asks, how can I grow from this challenge? The warrior asks, what opportunities might be hidden in this difficulty? This is not naive optimism. This is sophisticated consciousness. This is not denying problems. This is finding solutions. This is not pretending everything is fine. This is making everything better through conscious response instead of unconscious reaction. The space between stimulus and response can be expanded. This space can be lengthened. This space can be strengthened. The longer this space, the wiser your choices. The stronger this space, the better your results. The more conscious this space, the more abundant your life. How do you expand this space? Through the first two pillars. Stillness creates the space. Observation fills the space with wisdom. Response acts from the space with power. These three pillars work together, like legs of a stool. Remove any one pillar, and the structure collapses. Master all three pillars, and your wealth consciousness becomes unshakable. But mastery requires practice. Practice requires commitment. Commitment requires understanding that your current financial situation is not your permanent financial situation unless you keep responding to it the same way you have always responded to it. Every moment offers a new choice. Every breath offers a new beginning. Every situation offers a new opportunity to respond from consciousness instead of conditioning. The wealthy respond differently than the poor. The abundant respond differently than the scarce. The free respond differently than the imprisoned. You can learn to respond differently. You can train your responses like training your muscles. You can reprogram your reactions like reprogramming a computer. But this requires conscious effort, deliberate practice, and persistent commitment to growth over comfort. Most people choose comfort over growth. Most people choose familiar struggle over unfamiliar success. Most people choose predictable limitation over unpredictable abundance. This is why most people remain financially stuck despite wanting financial freedom. But you are not most people. You are here now learning these principles because something inside you knows you are capable of more. Something inside you recognizes that financial limitation is not your natural state. Something inside you remembers that abundance is your birthright. These three pillars, stillness, observation, and conscious response, are not new concepts. These are ancient principles that have been creating wealth for thousands of years. These are timeless truths that work regardless of economic conditions, market fluctuations, or external circumstances. The master craftsman does not blame his tools when the project fails. The master craftsman examines his technique, refines his approach, and improves his skills. Your financial situation is your project. These three pillars are your tools. The question is not whether the tools work. The question is whether you will master the tools. Stillness in the storm. Observation beyond the obvious. Response instead of reaction. These are not qualities you develop someday. These are powers you activate today. These are not future goals you work toward. These are present choices you make now. Can you feel these pillars taking shape in your consciousness? Can you sense your relationship with money beginning to shift? Can you notice that something fundamental is changing in how you think, feel, and perceive your financial reality? This change is not imagination. This change is transformation. This change is your true nature, remembering itself through the fog of conditioned thinking. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you have always been underneath the layers of financial programming. But remembering is only the beginning. Application is where transformation becomes manifestation. Knowledge without application remains merely entertainment. Understanding without implementation remains merely philosophy. Awareness without action remains merely potential. The time for merely understanding is ending. The time for actively applying has arrived. What happens when the caterpillar finally surrenders to the cocoon? What occurs when the seed accepts the darkness of soil? What takes place when the prisoner realizes the cell door has been unlocked all along? Transformation, not gradual improvement, not slow progress, not incremental change, complete metamorphosis, total rebirth. Absolute transformation from one state of being to another, from scarcity consciousness to abundance consciousness, from financial struggle to financial flow, from poverty programming to prosperity programming. But transformation requires death, the death of who you were, the death of how you thought, the death of what you believed about money, about yourself, about what is possible. Most people want transformation without death. They want change without letting go. They want abundance while holding on to scarcity patterns. This never works. The caterpillar cannot become a butterfly while remaining a caterpillar. The seed cannot become a tree while remaining a seed. You cannot become financially abundant while remaining financially programmed. Something must die for something new to be born. What must die is not you. What must die is your identification with limitation. What must die is your attachment to familiar struggle. What must die is your addiction to financial drama, worry, and stress. These patterns have become so familiar. They feel like home. But home can be a prison if you never leave. Are you ready to leave home? Are you ready to step into unknown territory? Are you ready to become comfortable with being uncomfortable as old patterns dissolve and new patterns emerge? The breath is your guide through this transformation. The breath is your anchor when everything feels uncertain. The breath is your reminder that life continues to flow even when old structures are collapsing. Every conscious breath dissolves conditioning. Every conscious breath installs new programming. Every conscious breath moves you from scarcity to abundance. Right now, breathe in abundance, not as a concept but as a feeling, not as an idea but as an experience, not as hope for the future but as reality in this moment. Feel abundance filling your lungs, entering your bloodstream, saturating your cells. This is not visualization. This is recognition. Abundance is your natural state. Scarcity is learned behavior. Breathe out limitation. Breathe out fear. Breathe out the belief that you must struggle for money. Breathe out generations of poverty programming. Breathe out stories that no longer serve you. With each exhale, release what is false. With each inhale, receive what is true. The conditioned mind will resist this process. The conditioned mind prefers familiar limitation over unfamiliar abundance. The conditioned mind will whisper, "This is too good to be true." The conditioned mind will argue, "You do not deserve this." The conditioned mind will insist this cannot be real. These voices are not your voice. These thoughts are not your thoughts. These beliefs are not your beliefs. These are echoes of conditioning, shadows of programming, ghosts of limitation. They have no power except the power you give them through attention and belief. But you can withdraw your attention. You can withhold your belief. You can starve these patterns of the energy they need to survive. What you do not feed cannot grow. What you do not water will wither. What you do not practice will weaken. The transformation from scarcity to abundance happens in layers. The first layer is mental. You begin to think differently about money. You start to see opportunities instead of obstacles. You notice abundance instead of lack. Your internal dialogue shifts from limitation to possibility. The second layer is emotional. You begin to feel differently about money. Money becomes a friend instead of an enemy. Wealth becomes natural instead of foreign. Prosperity becomes expected instead of surprising. Your emotional relationship with money transforms from fear and anxiety to peace and appreciation. The third layer is physical. Your body begins to respond differently to financial situations. Your breathing remains calm during money conversations. Your shoulders stay relaxed when paying bills. Your stomach stays settled when checking bank balances. Your nervous system learns to associate money with safety instead of danger. The fourth layer is energetic. You begin to vibrate at the frequency of abundance. You attract opportunities without effort. People notice something different about you. Doors open that were previously closed. Resources flow to you because you have become a vibrational match for wealth. But these layers do not transform in perfect order. Sometimes emotional shifts precede mental understanding. Sometimes physical changes happen before emotional healing. Sometimes energetic alignment occurs before conscious awareness. Transformation is organic, not mechanical. Trust the process even when the process feels chaotic. Think of a desert blooming after rain. For months the landscape appears barren, lifeless, hopeless, but underneath the surface seeds wait patiently for the right conditions. When rain finally comes, the desert explodes into color. Flowers appear overnight. Life emerges from apparent nothingness. The transformation seems sudden, but the preparation was years in the making. Your financial transformation may appear sudden to outside observers. They will say you got lucky. They will say you were in the right place at the right time. They will say you changed overnight. But you will know the truth. The seeds of abundance were always there, waiting for the right consciousness to water them. The unconscious person approaches money like a gambler approaches a casino. They hope for luck. They expect loss. They celebrate small wins and catastrophize small losses. They live in emotional extremes, swinging between hope and despair based on external circumstances. But the conscious person approaches money like a gardener approaches a garden. They plant seeds intentionally. They water consistently. They trust the process patiently. They know that abundance grows naturally when proper conditions are created and maintained. The unconscious person reacts to financial circumstances. The conscious person creates financial circumstances. The unconscious person is a victim of economic conditions. The conscious person is a master of economic energy. The unconscious person competes for limited resources. The conscious person creates unlimited resources. These are not different people. These are different levels of consciousness operating in the same person. You have operated unconsciously with money. Now you can choose to operate consciously with money. The choice is moment by moment, breath by breath, decision by decision. When bills arrive, the unconscious mind panics. The conscious mind breathes, centers, and responds strategically. When opportunities appear, the unconscious mind hesitates. The conscious mind acts decisively. When money flows in, the unconscious mind spends impulsively. The conscious mind invests wisely. Every financial situation becomes an opportunity to choose consciousness over conditioning, response over reaction, creation over victimhood. These choices, repeated consistently, create compound transformation. Small conscious choices accumulate into massive life changes. But consciousness requires vigilance. Conditioning runs automatically. Consciousness must be chosen repeatedly. Old patterns will attempt to reassert themselves, especially during stress or uncertainty. This is normal. This is expected. This is part of the process. When old patterns resurface, do not judge them. Do not fight them. Do not pretend they are not there. Acknowledge them like clouds passing through the sky. Clouds are temporary. Sky is permanent. Patterns are temporary. Consciousness is permanent. The warrior does not waste energy fighting shadows. The warrior simply turns toward the light. When scarcity thoughts arise, turn toward abundance thoughts. When fear emotions emerge, turn toward trust emotions. When limitation beliefs surface, turn toward possibility. This turning is not forced. This turning is natural, like a plant turning toward sunlight. You do not force the plant to turn. You simply provide the right conditions, and turning happens automatically. Abundance is your sunlight. Turn toward abundance and transformation happens automatically. The old you that struggled with money is like a snake's shed skin. It once served a purpose, but it no longer fits. The snake does not mourn the old skin. The snake does not try to wear the old skin. The snake simply grows into the new skin and continues forward. Your scarcity programming was once protective. It helped you survive difficult circumstances. It taught you to be careful with limited resources. It prepared you for financial challenges. But what once protected now restricts. What once served now limits. What once helped now hinders. Thank your scarcity programming for its service. Honor what it taught you. Appreciate how it protected you. Then release it with gratitude and step into abundance programming. This is not betrayal. This is growth. This is not abandonment. This is evolution. The wealthy mind thinks in decades, not days. The wealthy mind plants oak trees, not grass. The wealthy mind builds systems, not just solves problems. The wealthy mind creates value, not just captures value. The wealthy mind serves abundance, not just seeks abundance. Most people think poor and hope for wealth. This creates internal conflict. Their thoughts and their desires pull in opposite directions. This conflict creates confusion, frustration, and inconsistent results. You cannot think scarcity and create abundance. You cannot feel limited and manifest unlimited. You cannot vibrate poverty and attract prosperity. Alignment is required. Thought, feeling, and vibration must point in the same direction. When you think abundance, feel abundance, and vibrate abundance, abundance becomes inevitable. Not because you force it, but because you become it. Not because you chase it, but because you attract it. Not because you deserve it, but because you are it. But how do you know when transformation is occurring? How do you recognize that consciousness is shifting? How do you identify that abundance is emerging? The signs are subtle at first. You notice you worry less about money. You observe that financial stress affects you differently. You realize you are making decisions from wisdom instead of fear. You feel more peaceful during money conversations. You sense that opportunities are appearing more frequently. These changes might seem small, but small changes in consciousness create massive changes in circumstances. A ship that adjusts its direction by 1 degree will arrive at a completely different destination. A slight shift in frequency tunes into an entirely different radio station. Minor consciousness adjustments produce major life transformations. As transformation continues, the signs become more obvious. People comment that you seem different. Opportunities begin appearing with increasing frequency. Resources flow more easily. Problems that once seemed overwhelming now seem manageable. Challenges that once created panic now create curiosity. Your relationship with money becomes like your relationship with breath. You do not worry about your next breath because you trust that breath is always available. You do not panic about running out of air because you understand that air is abundant. Money begins to feel the same way. Always available, always flowing, always abundant. This is not about becoming wealthy and then relaxing. This is about relaxing and then becoming wealthy. This is not about getting money and then feeling safe. This is about feeling safe and then attracting money. This is not about having abundance and then being grateful. This is about being grateful and then experiencing abundance. The external world is always a reflection of the internal world. Change your inner world and your outer world must change as well. This is not philosophy. This is physics. This is not hope. This is law. This is not theory. This is reality. But transformation is not a destination. Transformation is a way of traveling. Consciousness is not something you achieve once and keep forever. Consciousness is something you choose moment by moment, decision by decision, breath by breath. Every moment offers the choice between scarcity and abundance. Every situation presents the option of fear or trust. Every decision provides the selection of limitation or possibility. The wealthy person is not someone who made the right choice once. The wealthy person is someone who makes conscious choices consistently. This consistency is not perfection. This consistency is commitment. Sometimes you will choose unconsciously. Sometimes you will react instead of respond. Sometimes you will forget what you know and fall back into old patterns. This is not failure. This is humanity. This is not regression. This is practice. The master is not someone who never falls. The master is someone who gets up quickly when they fall. The conscious person is not someone who never reacts unconsciously. The conscious person is someone who returns to consciousness quickly after unconscious moments. Your financial future is not determined by your financial past unless you keep repeating your financial past through unconscious patterns. Your wealth potential is not limited by your current circumstances unless you believe it is limited by your current circumstances. Your abundance capacity is not fixed unless you accept that it is fixed. Right now, in this moment, you can choose abundance over scarcity. Right now, in this breath, you can select consciousness over conditioning. Right now, in this instant, you can decide to be wealthy instead of deciding to remain limited. This choice is not about the money in your bank account. This choice is about the consciousness in your awareness. This choice is not about external circumstances. This choice is about internal experience. This choice is not about what you have. This choice is about who you are. The poorest person is not the one without money, but the one without awareness of their own creative power. The wealthiest person is not the one with the most money, but the one with the clearest consciousness of abundance. Money follows consciousness. Circumstances follow awareness. Results follow beliefs. You have this consciousness. You have this awareness. You have these beliefs. They exist within you right now. waiting to be activated, waiting to be expressed, waiting to be lived. You do not need to acquire them from outside. You need to recognize them from inside. The transformation from scarcity to abundance is not a journey to somewhere else. The transformation from scarcity to abundance is an awakening to where you already are. You are not traveling toward abundance. You are remembering that you live in abundance. You are not becoming wealthy. You are recognizing that wealth is your natural state. This recognition changes everything. This awareness transforms everything. This consciousness creates everything. The wealth you seek is not found in the external world. It is activated in the internal world. The money will follow. It always does. This is the way.